Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now here's 10 astonishing more reasons why Bully Boris Johnson was unfit for PM. Yes, another 10 from those who were elected to represent us in the House of Commons, and these were still holding Boris Johnson accountable over the Sue Gray report. And again, each MP you'll see will be followed without reply because why would you want to hear a serial liar?
Barbara Keeley.
I want to quote the following to the Prime Minister and all those on his side. We've just heard one who want to suggest the COVID rules didn't matter. It's from palliative care doctor, Dr Rachel Clark. To NHS staff, it was abundantly clear that the way you survive a pandemic is together. In 2020, collective compliance was all NHS patients had to protect them. Basic, selfless public decency mattered. Rules were hated but obeyed because we care about each other. And that glass of wine in the PM's hand, it's been thrown in the face of all of us. How does he reply to that?
Wendy Chamberlain.
Speaker, the Prime Minister has previously stated that Partygate investigations would be fully complied with, but today there are reports that senior staff simply didn't answer the questionnaires and as a result have avoided being fined. Can the Prime Minister therefore confirm whether all senior staff at Number 10, including himself, met their obligations and replied to the Metropolitan Police in full?
Not Shah.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Prime Minister said, "I briefly attended such gatherings to thank them for their service, which I believe is one of the essential duties of leadership." He wouldn't need no leadership if it hit him in the face from where my constituents stand. And I'll tell him why. Because there's doctors who gave their lives. Their families weren't allowed to attend their funerals. I was on the phone when the trust I work with had to make decisions of leadership to separate people from not being able to see their dying relatives. I was on the phone to somebody whilst they died, begging me to let them see him. That's what leadership is, when those were difficult decisions they had to make, when nurses couldn't go home and had to book into hotels so they didn't spread infections. So if he had an ounce of leadership, he'd resign, so why doesn't he?
Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister's credibility is like a slow puncture. He reinflates it occasionally, but isn't the truth? His party needs a new front wheel.
Kate Land.
I have to say I'm absolutely appalled by the behaviour of some members in this chamber today. They're refusing to accept responsibility. They're jeering and cheering and saying, let's move on. Well, can I tell you, Prime Minister, there's a young man in Blackburn who can't move on because due to a wart on his head, rather than getting an appointment with a doctor, he was asked to send in a picture. 3 months later, he was actually told he had stage 4 cancer. So the impact is widespread, the damage is long-lasting, and this young man cannot even get the treatment because they say they won't fund it. Does the Prime Minister feel no shame that he just totally trashed rules that he made, expected other people to live with? He wants to move on and other people are left with the consequences. Surely the Prime Minister must resign.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I sometimes wonder if the Prime Minister has a neck of pure brass. Does he understand and recognise the words honesty, integrity and accountability? No. Because from my position, I don't think he does. Many members have spoken of personal things and personal tragedies they've gone through. The country needs a new leader. Yes, we need to move on, but we shouldn't need to lead on with you, Prime Minister. Will you now resign?
Debbie Abrahams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister's leadership, his behaviour drives the culture in our politics but also in our country. And it also gives licence to others to behave in a similar matter. So if he is genuine in his apology, and he's not, will he firstly ensure that the ministerial and members' codes have the Nolan principles incorporated into them and put them on the statute? And secondly, will he condemn those Oldham Conservative candidates who delivered toxic, racist and misogynistic leaflets during the recent local elections? His chairman has details of that.
Right, let's pick somebody else. Dan Jarvis.
Certainly. That's the motto of the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. And everybody serving in our armed forces knows that if the commanding officer of a unit had presided over the kind of shambles we'd seen in Downing Street, they would be discharged of their duties. Why is it different from the Prime Minister?
Anum, Qaisar.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A comment that sickened me from the Surgery report was, and I quote, "I was made aware of multiple examples of a lack of respect and poor treatment of security and cleaning staff. The Prime Minister has made a public apology at the dispatch box, but when will he personally apologise to those hard-working cleaning staff who risked every day to ensure that everyone was kept safe?"
Dr. Rupa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. One address, 20 months, 204 questionnaires, 345 documents, 510 photos, including the ones on page 38 onwards, of him raising a toast when he should be toast. And as a result of this, 126 fines, mostly to 83 junior staffers, while all the while the police were routinely fining people greater amounts than his 50 quid for far lesser offences. Doesn't this all point to a conclusion that not everyone is as equal under the law as each other these days?
These will be the last on this day, but I just felt it was important not to allow the likes of Mad Nad or the man with the most magnificent plumage on his head, Michael Fabricant, tell you that it's time to move on because of some far-flung country near the planet Mars has a war on, you know. And I could have carried on with a few more, but it had just over-egged the pudding, I suppose. I just wanted to show in my tiny little way on my little channel that we should never move on, actually, from the fact that our serial liar of Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, Alexander Boris de Peffel Johnson, was basically laughing at us for following the rules he set while he was boozing it up. And that's why we should never move on. Right, I do hope you enjoyed these couple of videos, and till the next time I shall bid you farewell and take care.